People always talk about the legendary race between the tortoise and the hare, but you know who they don't talk about? The fox.
Who's the fox?
Oscar Piastri. This is Turn One Podcast. We're your hosts, Jeremiah
and Thomas.
And I'm going to tell you about the fox, Oscar Piastri.
Fox.
Okay, so I know it's a ridiculous intro, but hear me out. If we're talking about the tortoise and the hare, you're talking about the hare who's clearly faster, maybe a little confident, maybe a little overconfident. It can go either way. I would say maybe that's Lando because of the McLaren car. He's got a faster car, but maybe doesn't necessarily have the mindset to win. Then you have the tortoise who's got the mindset to win. But man, that car is not competing with the McLaren.
It just limps along and crawls its way into whatever points it can get.
One of the drivers can't even finish a race in the points, except for Bahrain. Shout out Yuki. But nobody talks about the sneaky little conniving fox. And the reason I brought that up, I know it has nothing to do with the story whatsoever, is because while this battle between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen is going on, I think Oscar Piastri is going to slip in unnoticed and run away with this championship. I think Max is too focused on Lando. I think McLaren's too focused on Lando. And I think Lando is too focused on Max. Nobody's focusing on Oscar.
And you know what? I'll agree with you, because me and you watch everything F1 and we know what the standings are and we know Oscar's in the lead right now and all that. But if you're a casual F1 fan, I would bet most casual Formula One fans, if you were like, hey, who's leading the championship race right now? They would say Lando or Max.
Oh, yeah.
But it is Oscar Piastri. And not only is Oscar leading, now he's not leading by much, it's 10 points. Oscar has 3 wins. He's the only driver to have multiple wins. He's the only driver to have more than 2 wins, because Lando and Max only have 1. He's got 3.
Out of the first 5, by the way.
And like you said, he's doing it kind of sneakily, because the focus is on Max, it's on Lando, it's on Ferrari's struggles, it's on everywhere else on the grid. And Oscar's almost pulling the Max Verstappen just running away with it in the background like we used to get, or the Lewis Hamilton running away with it in the background.
I think the McLaren strategists don't necessarily know how to pull it off yet. They're not a championship strategist team yet. They were in the past. Those guys are gone. They're not in the sport anymore. So with the new team that they have, I don't think they necessarily know what to do. Lando is their front runner, their fastest driver, and they give him strategies that don't always necessarily work out. And Lando, he's never had this kind of pressure on him. So then you get incidents like tapping a wall in Jeddah and having to start in 10th instead of realistically pole, since you were the fastest car across the weekend. Meanwhile, you got Max. Max is on a team with a car that, for lack of a better word, is terrible. Realistically, it's slower than the Ferrari, slower than the Mercedes, and way slower than the McLaren. But because of the fact that Max is the fastest driver on the grid, it's arguable that Red Bull is on par with McLaren. I mean, McLaren clearly has the edge, but they don't have the driver. And the Max has the mindset. He's a multiple-time world champion. He sees the finish line. He sees the trophy, and he knows exactly how to get it. But he doesn't have the tools.
For context, Red Bull right now is 3rd in the constructor standings with 89 points. 87 of those points are Max Verstappen.
Again, shout out Yuki Tsunoda.
That is not shout out worthy. That is not.
Hey, he's the first Red Bull B driver to score since Sergio in the beginning of last year. I don't even remember the last time he got points finished.
Sticking with strategy for a second, we've debated this before. McLaren strategists are terrible. There's no debating that. Do you think they continue to favor Lando? And let me ask you more this way. We saw this a little bit in Bahrain and Jeddah with some undercutting going on. Can the other teams take advantage of McLaren's poor strategy and get their drivers to pit at inopportune times? I can't remember if it was Bahrain or if it was Jeddah, but one of them got Lando Norris to pit first, and that worked against him.
Might have been Bahrain.
Yeah, might have been.
But that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about here, is if you stand firm in what you know, how to win, Max Verstappen, he wouldn't have fell for something like that. It just wouldn't have happened. But Lando Norris, he's never been the guy that's being chased. And now with him being essentially the faster driver of the two drivers at McLaren and him having the fastest car on the grid, it's his time to shine, and he's not shining. He should be running away with this thing, especially considering the fact that Oscar got ninth in what race was that? Australia, the opener.
Yep.
His home race, actually. So when you're looking at that, Lando should be far and away running away with this thing, but he's not. And he doesn't have that mindset, that killer mentality to go and to win the championship, lock this thing in. Max does, but he doesn't have the tools. One has the tools, one doesn't. One has the mindset, the other one doesn't. Now, let me tell you about Oscar Piastri. He won in F3 his first year. He won in F2 his first year. And now he's in Formula One, slowly but surely getting better and better. We've been talking about the gap between him and Lando across the last 3 years. Go ahead.
You skipped over one thing. We always talk about how he goes from F3 to F2 to F1, but there was that gap between F2 and F1 where he was a reserve driver. And I think we saw we saw a little bit about what Oscar is about when he made the jump from Alpine, who he was under contract with, to McLaren to go be a winner.
He wants to win. He doesn't want to sit in the middle of the field. He saw an opportunity and he went and took it. That's what winners do. They take advantage of every opportunity to win. Now, fast forward, slowly but surely, been closing that gap to Lando in performance ability. And now it's arguable that depending on what day, depending on what track, Oscar might be faster than Lando, Lando might be faster than Oscar. But the team is still focused on Lando. The world, the sport, everybody, Max, they're all focused on Lando. Meanwhile, McLaren has a winner, a long time standing winner in all previous categories below Formula One. And now he has his opportunity where he's given the tools, but he also has the mindset of Max Verstappen. He knows how to win. He won in F3. He won in F2. And now's his opportunity. I think he steals this thing away from Lando and Max.
We talked about this maybe in our way too early predictions video, but we had a kind of best and worst case scenario for McLaren this year, which is that they don't figure out the strategy, they team orders too much, and they end up running Lando off. And it's working out a little bit differently than that. Not necessarily a team order situation, but Oscar's just outright winning races and Lando isn't. And what if, like you're right, what if Oscar right now, this season, becomes McLaren's first driver's champion in a long time, and it's not Lando?
I think Lando maybe stays another year and then bolts. Maybe he doesn't even do that. Maybe he immediately bolts after that. But if Oscar runs away and wins this championship, make no mistake, McLaren is backing their guy. Without a doubt. Oscar is the new face of McLaren. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I'm trying to even think of a comp, and maybe the comp would have been Max sneaks up on Daniel Ricciardo in the early days of both of them at Red Bull, but that would have been even closer, or not as close as this.
I mean, that was the case. Daniel was the next one. He was the one at Red Bull that was supposed to lead them to their championship after Sebastian Vettel. He was supposed to bring them back to the promised land, win the championship, and he was supposed to be the head guy. Then along comes Max Verstappen. Everybody's focused on Daniel Ricciardo. Well, Max makes the jump from the B team to the A team, and then he starts to outshine Daniel. And what does Daniel do? He runs to another team. That's what I think will happen to Lando Norris if Oscar runs away with this championship.
Or maybe Carlos when he was at Ferrari jumping up and grabbing a championship over Charles.
Yeah, a little bit more far-fetched, but yeah.
Hey, in previous seasons, Carlos has gotten more wins than Charles has.
Yeah. It's like Max's season where he just won every single race except for when Carlos won.
And the two that Sergio got.
Shout out Sonoda.
So here's the deal. You're kind of making the claim right now that you think Oscar's going to win the Drivers' Championship. I don't know how much you're going to back that claim, but you're throwing it out there, right?
You know, my opinions come with the seasons, but right now it's in Oscar Piastri season.
They change with the wind. So I'm not fully there yet. We're only 5 races into what, a 24 race season?
24, 23, 24. Yeah.
If this is still the case at 8 or 9 races in. So if we go 3 or 4 more race weekends and Oscar is leading and maybe even pulling ahead at that point, I'll switch over to your claim. I just, not saying I have a lot of faith in Lando or anything like that. I think Lando's great. He's an elite driver. I just think he can still turn it around and do it. And
And it's possible.
I think at some point, we've talked about this before, Max's car is going to hinder his ability to get points, and he is going to drop back from this race. He has to at some point.
I don't know. So counterpoint. Red Bull starts to put the pieces together and deliver Max a better car. Does that bring Max more into the fight? I'm not saying that Red Bull gives him the same car McLaren has, but what if he had the same car that George Russell's had in that Mercedes?
Yeah, it's just the past season and a half of development from Red Bull has been lacking.
As Adrian Newey makes the switch mentally.
And I don't even know how much of that is tied to it. I'm sure some of it is, but like last year, they did not make their car better.
No, and part of that is the whole they went a direction thinking that it was working because Max was still winning. Come to find out that it was actually the wrong direction and had to backtrack. But maybe they fixed that. Maybe now they found the lane that they're supposed to be on. I mean, who knows?
The other reason I want to hold out on my opinion until maybe 8 or 9 races in, races 8 through 12 is when we start to get some major upgrade packages coming out. And what if McLaren, in classic McLaren fashion, either rolls out an upgrade that messes up both of their drivers that they have to retract, which we've seen teams do before plenty of times, or what if they roll out an upgrade package that clearly favors one of the drivers, not like purposely favors one of the drivers, but it just fits one of the drivers better? Because we've seen that where teams will roll out identical upgrades to identical cars for drivers, and one driver excels in it and one driver can't drive it anymore.
Yeah. Or option number three, how about the fact that the last 2 seasons McLaren has started meh and then brought upgrades that brought their car to the front?
I know that's the more likely option, is that they just continue to do really well.
Yeah, completely taking Max out of the situation, but at no consequence or no disrespect to Red Bull in that aspect, McLaren just figured it out.
So 5 races through the season, Oscar's got 3 wins, Lando 1, Max 1. You're making the claim Oscar's going to win the championship. Where do you see the final win total at? How many does Oscar get this year if he's at 3 in the first 5?
I don't think he runs away and gets 15 wins, if that's what you're thinking.
No, I don't think that's the case, but like, is 10 realistic? It sounds like a lot of wins.
I don't think so.
3 in the first 5 would mean 15 proportionally. So anything less than 15 would be...
If we follow the trends now, we know that George Russell has a car to get him on the podium, but not to win a race. We know that Red Bull has a car to win a race. Red Bull has the driver to win a race, but not the car, which is why Max has a win. And we know McLaren has the dominant car. And we also know Ferrari now, thanks to Jeddah, we know Ferrari has a car that can get them on the podium, but again, not win the race. Yeah. So if trends stay the same, I could see Oscar with 10 wins, but if he's at 10 wins, then you have to put Lando and Max equaling to 14 wins between the two of them. So however you split that up. Now, realistically, more than that, I'm thinking Oscar probably gets like 8 or 9 wins, and Max and Lando are right there. Or maybe Max drops back and only he gets 5 wins, but Lando picks up the slack on that, and he's right there neck and neck with Oscar Piastri. Whatever that's mathematical outcome you see there.
That's the ballpark I'm in. The winner of this season will have somewhere between 8 and 10 wins. Second and third will be slightly less than that, but have the vast majority of the wins for the rest of the season. But some other driver is going to jump up and get a win. There's going to be disqualifications like we saw last year that caused winners to win that shouldn't have won. There's going to be weather at some point this season. There's going to be crashes and DNFs at some point this season. So someone outside of those 3, likely playing the odds, is going to win a race. But I do think that 20 of the races this year are split between those 3, if not 21.
Very possibly. I mean, obviously, you have the oddball chance that George comes out and wins one like he's done in the past. Lewis could come out of nowhere and win one like he's done in the past. Charles Leclerc could come out and win one. I mean, realistically, I'm not taking any of that out of the equation. I'm more so saying Oscar Piastri feeds off of this fight between Max and Lando, and only he benefits from this fight. Now, hear me out. I'm saying, as the statement, Oscar wins a championship, but I propose a scenario.
Okay.
8 races into the season. Let's say Oscar's got 5 wins and put the other 3 between whoever. That means either Max or Lando wins one more. Does McLaren switch who their main driver is? Right now, they claim that they don't back either one of them, but they clearly back Lando.
It depends on how close Max is. If Max is as close as he is right now, which is within 2 points of Lando and 12 points of Oscar, then I think you might have to. Just pick one guy and let him run away with it. But if Max has started to drop back, then you've got a little bit of wiggle room to let your guys keep fighting.
I propose if we get to the halfway point and Oscar's running away with this thing, that the team continues to help Lando fight Max so that they can finish with a 1-2. But if Max is right on the heels of Oscar, I propose the team makes a switch to Oscar being their main focus.
And they tell Lando just to T-bone Max at every first turn of the race.
Or just keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, the other Red Bull driver isn't going to get any points, so the second McLaren driver also doesn't need to get any points, but we do need a win. So is that not a strategy you would employ if you were team principal?
Probably not. Look, just dive bomb our competitor every turn 1.
So, you know what? It kind of sounds like something James Vowles would throw out. Look, guys, I've done the math on this. We can win the season with one driver. Let's use the second driver to take out somebody else's number 1 driver.
Listen, if Alex Albon just never braked going into turn 1 for the rest of the season and takes out the 7 or 8 drivers that are going to finish ahead of Carlos in a massive crash, then we tell Carlos to hit the brakes, let it all unfold in front of him, and then wiggle to the inside.
Williams would be out of the sport in 4 races because they'd be out of money from having to replace their cars.
Or they have 19 drivers on the grid for the rest of the season.
Okay, we'll see how this plays out. I guess let us know down in the comments. Do you agree with Jeremiah's stance that Oscar is going to slip away with this year's championship and it is not going to be Lando's first?
Guys, if you think that nobody's focusing on Yuki and he just might sneak into all of this, that'd be crazy. Probably not, but that'd be cool.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye, guys.